Hi, I'm Ivan Zoot. I am Clipperguy, and this is men's haircutting from A to Zoot. We're up to the letter V, and V is for vertical paneling. Vertical paneling is a system where we subdivide the head into a series of vertical overlapping panels. Vertical paneling is the answer to the question, how do you eat a rhinoceros? For the average hair cutter, tapering a full head of hair is like trying to eat a rhinoceros. There's too much there. You got to take it in little bites. You got to break it down. What we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate vertical paneling. I'm using hair grippers. Have you ever seen hair grippers? These are cool. These are sectioning clips designed for use on short hair. They stick there beautifully. They're plastic. They're sanitizable. Put them right in the Barbicide blue stuff, just like any other non-porous materials, and sanitize. But for our purposes, they serve to section off the hair visually so you can understand where we're going. In vertical paneling, panel number 1 is an area at the center back of the head, from the perimeter at the nape line to just north of the occipital bone, right there in the area that sits beneath the gripper. Now, we are going to taper panel number 1 and taper panel number 1 and taper panel number 1. We're not going to taper hair anywhere else on the head except for panel number 1. Panel number 1 will then become my guide. Haircutting 101, create a guide, follow the guide, and don't cut the guide. Don't lose the guide, but use the guide to create the next section. For visual purposes, the reason I like to use the grippers is when we're done with panel number 1 and happy with panel number 1, only when we're done and happy do we then move on to panel number 2. Panel number 1 is my little finished haircut. Panel number 2 lives right here. Panel number 2 represents 50% of previously cut panel number 1 serving as my guide, that's right, and 50% new hair living next door. Only when we're happy with panel number 1 do we move on to panel number 3. Panel number 3 represents 50% of panel number 2, that's right. It's a traveling guide. You don't go back to panel number 1. So panel number 3 lives here. Notice none of the blue gripper is under the pink gripper. 1, 2, 3, and we move around the head in a series of overlapping panels. The beautiful thing about the panel cutting concept is every second you spend, every moment that you invest in panel number 1 saves time in subsequent panels, because once panel number 1 is looking really good, panel number 1 is then our guide. We didn't have a guide for number 1. It was freeform. Then we began to work on other panels. So just looking at what we do here, in panel number 1, we work clipper over comb. And notice, I'm just working vertically in center back panel number 1. And notice, I'm not cutting hair over here and I'm not cutting hair over there. I'm staying in what was just that center back area. And only when I would finish this area, and I'm not close to finished yet, but when I would then move on to subsequent panels. That is V for vertical paneling. That is the technique for classic clipper over comb. Practice that technique working one panel to the next. And if you like your hair grippers, of course, Clipperguy.com, 3-pack, 3 assorted colors are available. A great tool for clipping and holding, especially with guys where you don't want to use clippies, short hair. Love them. Clipperguy.com. Thanks for watching the men's haircutting from A to Zoot. Have a great day.